Rolodex in my brains was like me with a walking stick in a velvet cape with a parrot and like a prostitute with one tooth leaning out of the tavern window. And I just thought it was funny. And then I was kind of repulsed by my reaction, but I was like, this is an actual disease and you find it funny. Why a theme park? Well, 3 years ago when Bettina, the director of the museum, invited me to make this exhibition, she said, I want to do a mid-career survey. I want to do an overview of your work. And I was like, I feel too young and not ready to do something that feels like a retrospective. Then I came to the museum and she showed me the museum floor plans. And when I looked at the floor plan, I was like, I've seen this before. And I was trying to rack my mind as to where I'd seen this floor plan. And I realized it's almost exactly the same floor plan as Disneyland. And I was like, well, Bettina, if you want your themes, let's make a theme park. As I started working on it, I realized there's many overlaps between theme parks and museums. They're both places where you buy a ticket to enter. You walk through a kind of entrance, a tunnel, and you enter into another world. This is the Grand Ball, which is where the fairy tale castle would be. We'd have Cinderella here. My Cinderella is Who the Baer. It's a cartoon character that I created in 2020 during the lockdown. And it's a cartoon bear that has no gender, no race, no sexuality, who has no identity. They're just an image in the world looking for a self in the world of images. Behind me is a new commission that I conceived of especially for this space and at this time. And it's a fiction of Who the Baer taking on the Picasso Guernica. It's really obvious why maybe I would have wanted to approach this image of conflict, of suffering at this time. Part of the museum series is when Who the Baer goes to visit different museums around the world. And this time they came to Huda, the Mudam Museum. Who the Baer here is taking over the museum. They are doing the welcome speech on the balcony. They're the art handler. They're the museum director. They're the art. They're the architecture. They're the architect. They're the education department. They are the lectures about exhibitions. They're the museum shop. Who is a kind of megalomaniac tyrant, like a giant baby that just wants to be everything, eat everything, consume everything, and convert everything into their own image. I want to create this kind of monstrous vision of a museum in the future, which is kind of in some ways already here. So on that fun note, a Hall of Mirrors is like a circus or theme park experience where you go into like maze and there's endless mirrors and you keep touching yourself and you don't know where you're going. And we chose this metaphor for this space, bringing together different bodies and work. Because as Leon said, all of the works in this room are about the distortion of an image, the search for a self, and the endless reflection and proliferation of selves, how we have knock-on effects in the world. The first piece in the show is this abstract expressionist painting, and it's a reproduction of the work by Patrick Heron, who's a British artist. And this is the first ever modern artwork that I ever saw. This is part of the world's largest archive of a single book, and that single book is 50 Shades of Grey. I put them in a row because I wanted to have this sense of the endlessness of it and the absurdity of it. And I find it comforting somehow because it feels like a community in a way. Joanne, which is both here and here. These images are like very slick, very produced, almost like advertising images. But they depict my former art teacher at Harrow School, who we're very honored to have here today. Many years later, we lost touch, and I next heard about her after a series of tabloid articles were printed in the British press that were branding her and presenting images of Joanne, showing private, very nice and photographed topless images that were planted somewhere in the school and then made it to the national press. In the end, we called this idea of relaunching her in a way, as if she were a product from Apple. On the back there, you see a video where you see us going through these kind of infernal stages of meeting PR teams, stylists that don't get it, brand managers. Everyone has an opinion about how this person, this persona should be. But again, it's a hall of mirrors for you. Maybe you never really get to know who Joanne is. These are works from a series of paintings, over 100 paintings of using the makeup of the former German Chancellor Angela. When I bought it, I started putting it together and I was like kind of horrified, repulsed, excited, stimulated, because I was operating under this kind of moralistic idea that this shouldn't happen to the Anne Frank house. But I don't really know where I got that idea that it was so precious from. It was a received idea. This is what, like, capitalism is doing to all of us, in a way. This turning us into products, turning us into productive images. This is a work that's called Syphilis, a Conquest. And I made this work directly after the small world, and I had to come back to Istanbul because I started to get quite sick. And when I went to have tests in the doctors in Berlin, the doctor told me that I'm syphilis positive, that I have syphilis. And my first reaction was like, I burst out laughing at the doctor because I was like, I don't think people had this in this century anymore. I thought it was a 19th century disease. Syphilis was brought back by Gustavus on his 3 ships on his conquest of the Americas, and it was supposed to have been brought by the soldiers who then went to invade Naples, and that was the first place that syphilis had a big eruption. And then this kind of opened this big dusty storybook for me of like the fascinating history of syphilis. So I started to think of it as an adventure story. And so the whole room is a kind of telling of this adventure story, starting with the family crest, like the literal badge of honor. There's a set of the skeletons of these famous artists. There are 3 ships that kind of anchor the installation, and those are the referencing to the 3 ships of the Columbus expedition. And they are kind of 3 different visions. The last work in the room I want to talk about is this kind of altar. And at the core of it is a treasure chest with swabs that I took of my syphilitic self that are then infused and preserved in this vacuum, so that in the future, like syphilis theme park experience, you could recreate a syphilitic artist to kind of run around and infect you. It's a memorial to the Japanese gay porn star called Komasaki. Komasaki was 29 when he died, and he was a pretty famous porn star that became a public figure, like an icon. He was a pride, he was on magazines in Asia, he was like at bars, dancing. He was someone that everyone in the gay world knew. It's a very simple work. I don't want to say any more about it. But this was the kind of end point, and it's kind of the end point of an image and the end point of a life. And I thought it was the right place to sort of make the end point of the exhibition.